Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. So, I'm going to talk you a little about my DFIR and malware analysis setup, which I have set up on my home lab as well. I have used similar setups at work as well, but of course, the tools might be a little different on those setups. This is actually the photo here is actually the first ever stock photo I remember buying for presentations, and I enjoy this photo as the DFIR analyst is looking the hard disk with the magnifier, and I'm not sure if she's reading binary there, but this is so absurd, the photo, and I loved it, so I'm going to use it in each and every presentation I'm never going to make in digital forensics. But yeah, so my name is Juho. Uh, I'm also known as Whois. I'm 30 years old. I have three kids, which sometimes makes my life quite busy. I don't have really free time. My background, my studies, I have studied in Tampere University of Applied Sciences and graduated from there as a Bachelor of Engineering in Telecommunications. And I'm almost a Master of Science in Technology from University of Turku, and my main studies there are in information security and cryptography. I have some approbations. They have been given to me. They are actually on the back there as well to remind me how uh, good my ass muscles are, as I have sit down and read all the books for that you need for those certifications. Uh, a word about certifications, they really don't tell what you know, but they tell that you have a big wallet and you are ready to make some sacrifices to get them. So I highly encourage everyone who is interested doing certifications to do them. But if you are not, it's okay as well. It doesn't define you. I have been around 7 years in the industry of digital forensics and incident response. I just actually quit my job as a senior consultant last year. As you can see, my ex workplaces are there. So I worked for Nixu past few years, and before that I was working in Elisa, where I actually led a SOC team, and before that I was working as a SOC analyst and doing digital forensics and incident response as well. Currently, I work for Traficom's National Cybersecurity of Finland, CERT FI or NCS CFI, as an information security specialist. I'm also a co-founder of HelSec. I have started this podcast with my friends, this Turvakäräjät podcast with my friends Laura Kankaala and Antti Kurittu. I'm also part of these organizations in some way. For example, this year I was one of the persons behind the disobey hacker patch challenge, and which is actually still ongoing. So if you would like to do some hacking and forensics, maybe, I'm not sure, you should try it out. It's uh, it's actually really easy this year. So this and last year. So I feel pity for that. But yeah, that's about me. And now we can move forward to the actual talk topic, which is the DFIR and malware laboratory I have set up on my home. Of course, few disclaimers first. As you can read, this presentation does not represent views of my employer. So if I say something that's odd to you, it's probably odd to them as well. This presentation presents stuff that can harm your and others' computers, so please repeat them on your own responsibility. And also, please forgive me, I started making this presentation yesterday evening, so if something is missing or there is some typos or so on, so please forgive me. I have done this in a kind of hurry. Yeah. So what to expect? This presentation is more about the setup and tooling I have there and how to use it and so on, and not how to use them. So I'm not going to tell you how to use this tool and so on. So that's something you have to figure out by yourself. But at least I think this gives a good baseline for your malware analysis or digital forensics tooling at your home. The first thing I want to point out is that you always need to adapt. So don't look at this presentation and this tooling like it was the only truth. If you need some other tools, please install them on your environment. And also, it would be really nice if you share them in this kind of event. If you have found some good tooling or if you have created a tool that does better something, it would be nice to see your presentation, for example, in the next meetup like this. So in my basic setup, I start building the malware app on a VMware workstation. And I think someone is already asking, can't I use my VirtualBox for this? So yes, you can. But my opportunity is my view on this is that there are as many opinions as there are assholes. So if you like the VBox, you can use it. If you like the ESXe, you can use it. If you like Gemu, you can use it. If you like Parallels, you can use it. Use whatever suits you. But I have built this setup over my VMware workstation. So the all the screenshots, for example, are from that, and I'm maybe I if we have time, I will demo a little bit about the how the setup works as well. So the first thing you need to remember to do is use the host-only network in your VMs, because you don't want the malware. If you execute the malware, you don't want it to contact internet from your IP address. Then I have two virtual machines, Windows 10 and Linux. And if you want to use easy setups, you can use Flare VM on Windows. And if you want to use easy setup on Linux, use Remnux. And actually, I'm using Remnux in my own setup, but the Windows 10 machine has been built by myself from the beginning. Of course, I have installed the Windows from ISO, not building the Windows myself. But yes, you don't need internet connection in this. You need OPSEC. So operational security is one of the most important things when doing malware analysis or doing forensic investigation. If the incident is ongoing, what you are investigating, you want to keep that as your the ongoing investigation as your own information, and don't want to let the attacker to know that they have been compromised. So maybe someone is thinking, or maybe you are thinking when you're doing the actual analysis, that what if the malware is downloading something, and or if something is contacting somewhere, and after that doing something else. What should I do then? Because I don't have the internet connection in my lab. So there's actually easy solution for that. Cloud services are really nice. You can use basically whatever cloud service you want to use. to interact with the C2 addresses. And for example, if the malware is downloading something from pastebin, you can actually directly contact the pastebin and download the payload. But yeah, keep your OPSEC and use cloud services instead of your own IP address. Then another thing about the lab setup, important thing, snapshots. Use snapshots. Always when you install some tools, please make sure they work, and after that take a clean state snapshot where you can return and you know that that specific snapshot is actually clean. Especially if you have many forensic cases ongoing, it's nice to keep snapshots from them if you have to change from an incident to another incident, and then you can always return to your investigation. So use them, and it's I have seen that usually the mistakes happen when you don't take snapshots. So if you have, for example, installed the whole tooling and you are too excited to get test it out, you run a malware there before taking a snapshot, you have basically lost all of your work because the workstation is not anymore clean, and all your installation work went down the drain. So yeah, take snapshots. So about the VM configuration, these mistakes happen, like I said. Sometimes maybe your workstation manages to connect internet for some reason. If you, for example, forgot to change the network adapter from NAT from NAT to a host-only network, it might contact, for example, Cobalt Strike server, and your computer might be seen there as one of the beacons calling home. This definitely hasn't happened to me, but I have heard that there has been some kind of this kind of incident between Nixu and F-Secure, but I don't know anything about that. So you should not use these generic hostname and usernames that are known for sandboxes or analyst computers. So don't use, for example, analyst PC, Flare VM, REM workstation, sandbox, and so on, because a lot of malwares actually detect them. So it would be nice to use some random strings or something that's meaningless, and something that cannot be connected back to you, because if for example your name is on the computer, it's easy to see that this computer is used by, for example, me, and then you can maybe in disobey come and say that hey, we have seen your name in or your alias in our Cobalt Strike beacon server C2. So also use VPN on host machine while analyzing. So if you accidentally connect your machine to internet, like I said, that has been happened in some cases, not for me, there's a chance that you don't burn yourself as the connection is routed to the VPN provider. Also, you should use static IP addresses both. I personally tend to use not the default VMware networks, and because then I don't accidentally connect any new VMs, for example, to my malware computers. And also use the Linux virtual machine IP address as a gateway and as a DNS server on the Windows machine. I will show you later on why is that, but it's important that all the traffic from the Windows machine goes to the Linux machine, so you can actually do better dynamic analysis. Windows configuration, you might need to do some group policy edits on the host. You need to disable the antivirus, of course. You should install Office tools as well. And why is that? That is because macros are still a thing and you probably want to edit them. You need to disable UAC because if you run something, you preferably want to run it without any interruptions. Disable passwords. If the malware wants to do privilege escalation, it's easier to detect and so on. Allow PowerShell scripts to run so that the malicious payloads will run on the system. Basically, this is like opposite of hardening of your system, but well, technically enabling, for example, PowerShell transcripts logging is hardening method, but that actually just makes your system more monitorable. So yeah, in a nutshell, make it less secure, but improve the logging on the system. So few words about the forensics tactics. I didn't this word came up my mind first when I was thinking the next few slides. So few things about the memory forensics. It's super good and effective and fun. Actually, I love to do memory forensics, but in my opinion, you don't get to do memory forensics that often. It's because usually the incidents you are going to handle in for example some big providers of forensics, these memory dumps are usually really either the incident has happened a long time ago and the memory dumps are obsolete already, or the computer has been rebooted or something, so it's not that useful anymore. So that's the reason why I don't go through memory forensics today. But if you do, the volatility is way to go. At this point, of course, remember Ulf Frisk, who was actually speaking in our last meetup, presented the Memproc FS, which is super good forensics tool, uh, but it still lacks some functionality, which can be found from volatility. So at this point, I would say that volatility is way to go, but it might change anytime soon. And I suggest that people follow the Ulf's development work and move on to the Memproc FS later on, or now, if it's okay. And someone might ask why recall is not there. Actually, Google decided to discontinue recall last year, so now we have only one Linux Nix memory forensics tool, the volatility, and well, a tool that runs on Nix, as the Memproc FS is a Windows only tool. But yeah, yes, rest in peace in pieces. I didn't. I never got used to work with the recall. It was so different compared to volatility, so I preferred that one. So I won't miss it. Also, Pluso everything. So in my experience, you should always run Pluso against everything and make timelines, super timelines. It's easiest up setting up incident timeline and might help you find evil. So if you have this case that something might have happened on this laptop, these timelines are much easier to work with than just finding a needle from a haystack. So yeah, and even though you would not investigate the timeline immediately, you should always run it at the first when you get the evidence, because the running it takes some time, and maybe you later on need to get back to it, and then you will have it ready. So few words about the tooling in Remnux. Uh, it's almost all you need. And I highly encourage you to read the Lenny Cheltzer's cheat sheets, because there is a lot of tooling related cheat sheets. They don't actually help you to analyze malware, but they help you to remind how this tool works and what you can do with it. And also, when you run dynamic analysis on your Windows machine, you should run these tools on the Linux. So inetsim, fake DNS, Wireshark, Burp Suite, if you want to proxy all the Windows web traffic through the Linux and intercept them on there and inspect where, for example, the malware is calling and which kind of C2 traffic. So tooling in the Windows, and this is about the forensics, more about the forensic side of my presentation. I highly recommend Zimmerman's tools because they are open source and really easy to use, and you can find the exact information you want from Windows. Of course, you might need to know what you are looking for, but these are good ones and really well documented on Zimmerman's website. He also has this Cape tool, which is pretty good forensic. Well, it runs several tools against image and prints you a report and find some anomalies from there. But you cannot use Cape if you are a consultant, because then you have to, well, you can use, but then you have to pay for it. If you are doing internal security, for example, in a company, internal digital forensics and incident response, you can use Cape, and I highly recommend you to do so. Then Event Log Explorer. This is the best Windows event log viewer I have seen, if you don't count any CMs like Splunk, but this is the best viewer for logs only. So you can actually make custom searches and custom columns. You can view the logs as you wish, and it's really good to use, and it's not that expensive. Under $200 for the standard edition, which is more than enough for most likely for you. Then about the tooling in the Windows when it comes to the malware analysis, PE Studio. This is a good one. This is something I always start my investigations with. I drop the malware to the PS Studio and see what it says about the binary file. It extracts metadata, embedded files, for example, some imports, exports, and strings from the binary, and you can see it reporting you some suspicious indicators when you start actually analyzing either dynamically or statically reversing it. It gives you the starting point of the malware where to start the actual investigation. Then Process Hacker, which you can actually use as a task manager as well, and it's working pretty good as a task manager. It tells you more details about the processes and the timeline and the relations, which is the parent process and so on. So this is really good. I would say that it's a task manager on steroids. So I highly recommend using this in normal Windows environments as well. Then Procmon, which is part of sys internals, which is good utility collection for Windows, and it's hosted on Microsoft website. It's their internal nowadays. And you can actually monitor changes that happen on the system, and after you have for example executed the malware and it has been recording the changes, you can export the result as a CSV file, which you can actually open with Procdot, which is a tool created for visualizing Procmon output and packet capture. So this is good for analyzing what the malware has done or what has happened during the incident in network-wise. And this is created by CERT-AT's Christian Woiner. So appreciation for him for creating a cool tool like this. Then open source tool called PD, which is process dump. You can actually find it on GitHub as well, but the build binary can be downloaded from splitcode.com. And it's good tool for malware unpacking. So usually a lot of malware is packed and you might want to unpack it. So instead of doing manual reversing for the unpacking method, you might want to try this out because it might actually dump the malware, dump the actual malware payload instead of the packet binary. Then this beautiful lady, few words about the decompilers and debuggers that you use during the malware analysis. I personally like IDA, but it's kind of expensive. And if you have a sponsor for IDA Pro, it's good for you. You should use it. You should not change the tooling. It's actively developed and it has a lot of good features that are not from are not in other tools. So I highly recommend you to stick with it. But for example, like me, who just lost the IDA Pro license, there are thankfully other options as well. For debugging, X64DBG and X32DBG, which are pretty good ones when it comes to the debugging session. And of course, you can use IDA3 for the static reversing the binaries. It doesn't have decompiler in it, so it might be a little harder than it would be with the IDA Pro. Or then you can be a cool kid and go with the Ghidra, which I highly recommend you to do. I haven't done so yet. I hope I will have someday time to learn another tool, to use another tool. But a little fun fact from the Gidra's logo: the binary there is actually "Hello World." So even NSA has some humor in their agency. And by the way, this tool is CyberChef, which is pretty good when you need to decode some strings or change the format of a string. It's open source tool that you can use. You can download locally or you can use it online on a pre-hosted website. Another mentionable tools in which I should install, which I would recommend you to install to the Windows, DNSpy and DIE, which is Detect It Easy. It will detect the packer, and also of course the UPX, which is the most common packer in malware world. You can use it to unpack malware, and also tools that let you change the binary characteristics that you can change, for example, disable some security features on binaries. But I will add them to this presentation before releasing the slides. So I will show you little what kind of lab it is, but it will be just a short one, nothing that fancy. I have set up it here on my Windows machine. I have here Malanal environment where I have Malwin, which is my Windows computer, and then I have of course my Remnux, and as you can see the IP address of the Remnux is here, and I have set it here on my Windows machine as a gateway, and also as DN server. Just a second, I will show you up. Okay, it's a bit laggy. It just woke up from freeze suspend, so let's see. Okay, I will actually have snapshot, which is prepared here. Time flies when it's fun, right? So yeah, I have it here. So network sharing center, change adapter settings. I'm not a Windows user, so forgive me if I'm using it wrong. But here you go. As you can see, I have different IP here, and the default gateway is my Linux machine. I have here this legit.exe, which is most likely a very legit software. The analyzing process starts usually with setting it up here to the P Studio. This will take some time, so I'm not going to wait for it. But as you can see, it actually collects some interesting information here. So we can see it's actually SIGNET binary. There is some blacklisted strings and libraries that are from the PA Studio. So something that's not that good. And as we can see, it's lucky recover instructions is embedded to the as a path here. So you might already know which kind of malware this might be. Also, VS admin delete shadows all quiet, so it deletes the Windows volume shadow copies, which is very common. Well, almost I think every ransomware does this, so it will delete the Windows internal backups before executing the malware. Then I have IDA here and process monitor and so on. So let's check what this malware is doing. I'm opening the process hacker here to show that I can see that what's going on, and then I have the Procmon here as well. My UEC is not actually disabled on this machine like you saw. Let's clear the log and then go to the Remnox and start the inetsim, and then also fake DNS so that we can actually see that the what kind of requests are coming as DNS here as well. And you can optionally open the Wireshark as well, but I'm not opening it right now because the we are running a little out of the time. So let's start the monitoring and run the legit.exe, and just to make sure that everything is okay, we can run it as administrator. And we can just wait and see that this is normal SVC hosts, but here you can see we have the legit.exe running, and we can see it's doing something. So let's wait. It's usually good to wait, for example, 30 seconds or something when you have executed the malware. If it has some sleep functions, for example, you might get over them, but you also might need to analyze it using for example the IDA to see if there is something that is suspicious. And you can always do the static reverse as well from the using the using the IDA, and of course see what kind of API calls there are, which APIs it's using. So we can also see that it's using some calls to the it's using some internet calls, that it's making some post, for example, which is highly suspicious for binary to do usually, and good characteristics of malware, which is contacting to the C2. But yeah, now I think we have seen enough for the running, so we can stop this one, and we want to save the log file to the desktop. If, as we know that it might be malware, so I would terminate running it, so it won't do bother our actual analyzing process. And after the file has after the export is done, we would read it to the proc dot and see the actual graph, how it has been interacting with the Windows machine. But now we can see some network data from our Linux side, and we can see some highly suspicious domain names that has been used, and to me those look pretty random, right? So these are high entropy URLs, which usually are really suspicious when it comes to the network traffic. And then we can also see we can see the for example, see the if we see the inetsim logs, we can actually see what kind of request there has been, and this is the full URL. So there has been some post to the main.php, and if we see from the service logs, we can see here as well the query. So we should see the actual data as well. Data. Okay, it's empty request, as we can see. Info post, no, it's there actually. Okay, so it's some kind of binary which was posted to the site. But yeah, this is basically how the setup works, and you can try it out installing by it yourself. But I'm not going to wait this, because I held it open way too long, which is the reason it takes some time. Sorry for that. That's a demo effect, so called. So where I was here. So thank you. So do you have any questions? I think Osku promised us that he will be acting as a host, as I cannot see the Discord while I'm doing the presentation.
That's correct, and I hope my audio and video setup allows people to actually hear me.
Yeah, at least I hear it.
Oh yeah, that's good. We do actually have a bunch of questions. So the first question is from Dist, and he's asking, is year 2021 the year of the Linux desktop?
Yes, it's definitely the year of the Linux desktop.
And Jaroneko asked, what are your best tips for gaining and training ass muscles?
Kyykky ja mave.
Okay, fair enough. Otter asked, would you recommend a separate, not network connected laptop for running the said VMs for extra protection, or would that be too much?
I don't think it would be too much, especially when you know that these accidents happen So I would recommend you to have a laptop which doesn't have Wi-Fi connection at all. The adapter is disabled, and when you want to update, for example, or install tools or do something else, when you need internet connection, I would plug the Ethernet cable to it.
Okay. Then we have a question from Strong, and he asks, how often does malware use hypervisors in the wild from your experience?
Not that often. At least I haven't seen that kind of threats. But of course, my experience is limited. But I haven't seen that kind of malware in a wild. Of course, I have. When I have heard about them, I have downloaded the samples from VirusTotal.
Okay. Akatsu asked, in the potential case of burning yourself, what would you do? Go buy a new internet?
uh, maybe buy some alpacas and move to the mountains. I'm not sure. I think it depends on the case you are investigating. If you're investigating, for example, APTs, I would be scared because they have they have capabilities that are not limited to the internet. But if it was, for example, some red team, from F-Secure or Nix or so on, I wouldn't be that scared.
Okay, I see. Jaroneko asked, have you heard of Memproc FS and would you use it? You actually did mention it, but would you like to elaborate?
Yes, I have used it, and as I said, it lacks some features, but it's really fast, which surprised me. I have been using it in one exercise, uh, which is large in scale, and there are usually 128 gigabyte memory dumps. So and it was super fast with them. So I highly recommend using it, especially when you have large memory dumps.
Okay. And then a question from Other. Um, have you considered looked into Kinkan and
Yes,
for using
yes,
different tools?
yes, I have, and I have tried it out, and I was actually I think I had this presentation with before it was released, where I had this opportunity to comment it, and it looked really promising, and it still does. But I haven't had time to actually use it, so I cannot comment if it would replace I know it would replace at least some part of my tooling, but I haven't time to do it yet.
Okay. And then Strong asked, any tips about making it harder for malware to detect your environment? And do you use custom tools to hide debuggers and analysis tools, or do you just patch those checks manually?
Patching, I prefer patching, because then you actually get to know how the malware is doing anti-forensics and trying to do the anti-debugging stuff. So I prefer doing the patching, but of course, for example, if you're playing CTF or doing some other things, you might want to get rid of the stuff faster. So then I would suggest the skill hide and so on, with which you can install to IDA as well. So if you're using IDA or X64 DBG, you can use those open source plugins you can find from GitHub. Uh, I don't know if they are yet made for Kidra,
Okay,
but yeah. But I haven't made my own plugins for those.
okay. Then Yaronako asked, have you tried using Vagrant to orchestrate your VMware workstation machines?
Yes, yes, I have. But as you may know, that I was using Arch Linux on my previous work, and the Vagrant wasn't that good with Arch Linux, or at least I couldn't get it working properly, so I gave up. So I
That's
haven't used it. I have tried, but I haven't used it.
yeah. I need to ask it this time. Did you tell everybody you were using Arc?
Yes,
Good. Okay.
yes, 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 yes.
And then somebody called Osku asked, how well can you protect your home computer against malware by naming your computer sandbox and keeping debuggers and other analysis tools open at all times?
That's actually that would be kind of effective against like advanced malware. So so if you are afraid of APTs, maybe you should do it.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing that actually comes to my mind when anybody mentions that malware
Yeah,
tries to detect those. Okay.
yeah. Joe
Um,
Sandbox is a good name for that as well. So
which
it's
one?
usually Joe Sandbox. You can
Oh,
name your computer Joe
okay.
Sandbox. Yeah.
Yeah, we have four more questions actually. Redalg asked, some of the advanced malware might wait for weeks before they activate. Do you know if it's possible to run a VM in a kind of accelerated mode and speed up the work or wait?
I don't know, but I would patch the malware. So you can just patch it. Skip the sleep part and then execute it.
Okay. And Yaroneko asked, what's your favorite Linux distro and why is it Ubuntu?
Okay, yeah. Next one.
Okay. Redalg asked, what kind of environment or tools do you suggest for UEFI or oldish boot sector malware analysis?
I haven't actually analyzed that kind of malware, so I don't really know what should you use for UEFI.
Okay. And then Jan Jaba asked, have you used services like any.run and what do you think about them?
Uh, no, I haven't used. I have used VirusTotal, and that's what, and mostly for downloading malware from there. I would not upload files if they are not common files to these services, uh, because these services are making business of your files. And also another thing is that, as I said, I have used VirusTotal for downloading malware. So if you upload, for example, a confidential document there, I can go and download it. So I would not use them. Uh, but I think if no one would use them, then I wouldn't have anything to analyze. So I might reconsider my suggestion. Please use them. But yeah, it's not a good practice in general, but because you really cannot trust where they go. So if you need a sandbox, automated sandbox, I would suggest buying, for example, one for example from Joe, or building your own open source cuckoo, which is pretty hard to do because at least I think the setup is every time different.
Okay. Then the final question from Giz. And have you used Cortex XDR and how do you feel about it?
Cortex XDR, isn't it the if I'm not wrong, is it the Palo Alto product? I'm sure. I have used the I have used the Palo Alto traps, which I think became Cortex XDR, but I'm not that familiar with it, so no comments for that. But in general, EDRs and data lakes are good for DFIR work.
Okay, that was all. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Osku. So a few-minute break before we uh, let Osku on stage.
That's right.